Okay, I have a hypothetical investment opportunity for you.
Oh, no.
And before you roll your eyes, I want you to genuinely consider this. I want you to be honest with me. Tell me if you're in.
I am always skeptical of your investment opportunities. Usually they involve, I don't know, vintage comic books or cryptocurrency based on dog memes.
That was one time.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
No, seriously, put your skepticism aside for just a second. Imagine I come to you and I say, give me £1.
Okay.
Just £1, a single coin. And in return, I can pretty much guarantee that you are going to get back £1,294.
Right. That is absurd.
Is it?
That's a return of over, what, 129,000%? That doesn't exist in the real world.
Doesn't it?
Not in the stock market, not in crypto, not even in the wildest real estate bubbles. That sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
See, that's where you're wrong. It isn't a Ponzi scheme. Well, it depends on your definition of a scam, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it is very real, it is completely legal, and it is happening right now in the UK.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you're telling me there is a legitimate vehicle delivering a 129,000% ROI, I assume we aren't talking about a high-yield savings account.
We are not.
Where are you getting a return like that?
You get it by investing in what we are calling the Donor-Contractor Nexus.
Okay. I see where we're going. We are leaving Wall Street and heading straight for Westminster.
Exactly. Today, we are diving into a report that is, frankly, mind-blowing. It's called Givers and Takers, and it was published just recently in October 2025 by the Autonomy Institute. And what they've done is basically map out the financial circulatory system of the British government.
It's a massive piece of research, and circulatory system is a really good way to put it, actually.
You think so?
Yeah, because what we are looking at is the flow of money, specifically, money flowing from private bank accounts into the coffers of political parties.
Right, the donations.
And then public money, taxpayer money, flowing back out to those same private companies in the form of government contracts.
And the numbers are just, that 1,294 to 1 ratio, that is a real number from this report.
Yeah.
It's not a typo. It's not an exaggeration for effect.
It is a real number. And that's really the heart of our deep dive today, isn't it? We're looking at givers, the companies donating to political parties, and takers, those same companies receiving public sector contracts.
And more often than not, they are the same people. The Venn diagram is almost a perfect circle.
Exactly.
And we should be clear, this is a huge analysis.
Oh, it's immense.
They looked at data going back 25 years with a really, really heavy microscope on what they call the contract explosion that's happened since about 2015.
Right.
And just to be clear to you listening right now, whether you're a political junkie who follows every by-election or, just someone who pays taxes and wondered where that money actually goes.
Yeah.
This isn't about shouting at one side or the other. This isn't a partisan thing.
No, absolutely not. And I think that is the most critical disclaimer to make right at the top of this.
This is about the machinery. It's about how business and politics intersect in a way that generates that insane ROI we started with.
Right.
It's about the physics of the system, not the color of the tie the prime minister is wearing.
And that is what makes this report so valuable. It moves us away from, anecdote and suspicion, the guy at the pub saying, oh, it's all corrupt bait.
Yeah, they're all the same.
And it moves us into hard data. We are literally tracing the pound coins through the system from one bank account to another.
So let's start with the sheer scale of this thing. Because when I read the executive summary, I had to double check the zeros. I genuinely thought I was misreading the scale.
It is staggering. So let's look at the giver and taker population, as they call it. The Autonomy Institute identified specifically 373 companies that play both sides of this game.
373.
Yep. They donate and they receive.
That's not a huge crowd, is it? Considering how many businesses there are in the UK, there are millions of registered businesses. This feels like a pretty exclusive club.
It is. It's a very, very specific subset of the economy. And if we look at the last 25 years, these identified companies,
just those 373.
just that cohort, they donated approximately £47 million to political parties.
Okay, 47 million. That's a lot of money to give away. That's a lot of fundraising dinners, a lot of rubber chicken, a lot of warm white wine.
It is. It's a significant outlay of capital for any business. But now look at the other side of the ledger.
Right.
Since 2015, so just in the last decade, essentially these same companies received approximately £60 billion in public contracts.
60
billion.
So hang on, let me get this straight. $47 million goes in over 25 years,
Mm.
and $60 billion comes out in just the last 10.
That's the headline figure. Now, to be fair to the data, and we always want to be precise here, the donation figure, as you said, covers 25 years, and the contract figure covers about 10.
Okay.
But the disparity is so vast that the timeline difference hardly matters. I mean, even if you adjusted for inflation or tried to perfectly align the timelines, the donation amount is completely, utterly dwarfed by the contract value.
It's not even in the same sport. It's like comparing a grain of sand to a mountain.
It's like buying a lottery ticket where you know the winning numbers, but the ticket costs pennies and the jackpot is the GDP of a small country.
It creates this image you mentioned in the report, a small key opening a massive door.
That's the phrase they use, and it's perfect. You put in a relatively small amount of corporate capital, and let's be honest, in the grand scheme of a multinational balance sheet, $47 million over 25 years is peanuts.
It's a rounding error.
It's a rounding error. And you use that to unlock access to this massive, gushing stream of public revenue.
And that brings us back to that ratio insight. I just want to drill into that again because that's the number that sticks in your head.
Right. So if you crunch those numbers, specifically looking at the last decade, where the data is richest, for every 1 pound donated by these companies, 1,294 pounds of public funds were awarded back to them in contracts.
I just can't get my head around that number. I mean, it doesn't compute. If I went to a bank and they offered me that, I'd assume they were laundering money.
You would? You'd call the police.
But here, it's just procurement. That's the official term for it.
Well, and it raises the question of intent, doesn't it? We can't say for certain, legally speaking, that Company A donated X strictly to get contract Y.
Right, there's no smoking gun email.
The data doesn't show a signed confession.
Yeah.
We don't have, a memo saying, here is the bribe for the hospital contract.
It's not a movie. It's much more subtle.
Exactly. But when you look at that ROI, that 129,000% return, you have to ask yourself a serious question.
Which is?
Is this donation a charitable act of civic engagement? Is this company just deeply, deeply passionate about the democratic process?
I'm guessing not.
Or is it a business expense? Is it a marketing cost? Is it client relationship management?
It's a cost of doing business, like buying ads or paying for a booth at a trade show.
Precisely. If you view political donations as an investment strategy, it is arguably the most profitable department in the entire company.
Yeah.
Your R&D department isn't giving you a 12,294x return. Your sales team certainly isn't giving you that. Only the government relations department is putting up those kinds of numbers.
So how did Autonomy actually find this? Because I imagine there isn't just a spreadsheet on a government website titled the corruption log or the pay-to-play list. It must have been incredibly difficult.
Far from it. And this is where we need to get a little bit nerdy, because the methodology here is actually quite heroic.
Okay.
This required some serious detective work. It's not just downloading 2 files and clicking merge.
Walk me through the forensics here. We have the Electoral Commission data, which I assume is public, right?
Yes, the Electoral Commission tracks donations over £500. That's fairly standard. It's out there.
Yeah.
Then you have the UK government's Contracts Finder portal, which tracks public contracts over £12,000.
Okay, so you have 2 lists. List A of donors, list B of contractors. Why not just match them up? Why is that hard?
Because those 2 databases don't talk to each other at all. They are completely siloed.
Oh, of course.
And the data hygiene, which is a very polite way of saying the absolute messiness of the data, is terrible.
Messy how? Like typos.
Worse than typos.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental lack of standardization in how we identify a corporate entity. In a well-designed system, every company would have a unique identifier, a company's house number or a DUNS number.
Like a fingerprint.
That follows it everywhere. Exactly. Like a social security number for a business.
Right, makes sense.
But the government's procurement data often leaves that field blank, or the donation data doesn't require it.
So what do you have instead?
So you have Fujitsu Services Ltd. in one row, Fujitsu in another, and maybe Fujitsu Global in the donation register.
But they're all the same company.
To the human eye, yes. You and I know those are the same company. But to a database, to a simple search function, they are 3 complete strangers.
So you can't just hit Control F and search for Fujitsu.
You absolutely cannot. Autonomy had to use something called fuzzy string matching.
Fuzzy string matching. That sounds like something my cat does with a ball of yarn.
It's a data science technique. It's essentially using algorithms, things like Levenstein distance or other string metrics, to calculate the probability that Fujitsu SDCS is the same entity as Fujitsu Services.
So the computer is basically guessing.
It's calculating a probability score.
Right.
And they had to set a confidence threshold.
What does that mean?
It means if they set the confidence level too low, they get false positives.
Right.
So maybe Smith Construction gets matched with Smith Consulting, and they're totally different companies run by different people.
Okay.
But if they set the threshold too high, they miss connections. Maybe PricewaterhouseCoopers and PwC don't register as the same.
That sounds incredibly laborious and prone to error.
It is. And the fact that an external think tank has to run probabilistic algorithms just to see who is getting our tax money is a scandal in itself.
Yeah.
It means the government doesn't actually know in a single click how much money they've given to a specific corporate donor. They can't do it.
It's like trying to balance your checkbook, but half the entries are written in invisible ink and the other half are misspelled, and some are just a vague description.
And that's a crucial point we will come back to later. The data they found, this 60 billion pound figure, is likely just the tip of the iceberg because so much of it is hidden or badly recorded.
Wow.
But even with those limitations, even with the fuzzy matching and the messy data, they found 60 billion pounds flowing to these donors.
Okay, so that's the scale. It's absolutely massive. But now I want to talk about the when, because timing is everything in comedy and apparently in government contracting too.
Yes. The report applies a very specific filter that I found fascinating. They didn't just look at, did you ever donate and did you ever get a contract?
No, that would be too broad.
Exactly. They looked for what they call the 2-year rule.
Unpack that for us. Why 2 years? Why does that time frame matter?
The logic is based on the idea that influence decays over time.
Okay.
If I donate to a political party today and I get a contract 10 years from now, it's very hard to argue that the donation caused the contract. Too much has changed, markets change, governments change, the people in charge retire.
Right. The connection is too disconnected. It's too tenuous.
But if I donate today and I get a massive government contract 6 months from now or a year from now,
then the correlation is much tighter.
Much tighter. It suggests a gift and a reward.
It's the quid and the quo sitting right next to each other on the calendar.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
So when they applied this 2-year filter looking specifically for contracts awarded within 2 years of a donation to the party in power at the time, they found 125 companies that fit that specific profile.
125. So roughly a third of our giver and taker club operate on this fast track.
Right. These 125 companies donated to a major party, and then boom, within 24 months, they land a contract from a government led by that same party.
And what's the dollar value there? Or pound value, I should say.
In that tight 2-year window, it's still huge. We're talking about 12 million pounds in donations.
Okay.
Which led to nearly 2.5 billion pounds in contracts.
2.5 billion.
Yes, from that specific time-limited cohort.
That is efficient. Frighteningly efficient.
It's incredibly efficient, and it tells us that this isn't necessarily a long game for everyone. For many of these companies, the turnaround is relatively quick. You write the check, you get the access, you win the bid.
It really makes you wonder what happens in those meetings, doesn't it? Thanks for the generous support, by the way. Have you seen this tender for new IT services coming up?
We can only speculate on the conversations, obviously. We aren't in the room. But the data shows the timeline. And the timeline is, I think, undeniable. The proximity of the cash gift to the contract award is, well, it's highly suggestive.
Now, I want to pause here because I can hear the counter-argument forming in the listener's head. We live in polarized times. Some people might be thinking, oh, this is just a hit piece on the Tories because they were in power for most of this data set.
Right.
Or someone else might be thinking, this is just bashing labor. But one thing I really appreciated about this report and about our mission here on the deep dive is that the math doesn't care about your political party.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And the hosts, us, and the authors of the report are very, very clear on this. This is a systemic issue.
Yes.
It is not limited to one ideology. The Nexus, this machine, operates regardless of who is sitting in number 10 Downing Street.
So let's look at the breakdown. The report gives us the numbers for both. We have data covering the conservative government from 2015 to 2024, and then the start of the Labor government from July 2024 to June 2025.
Let's start with the conservative record, simply because it's a much longer period in the data set. It gives us a baseline for how the machine runs over a decade. During those years, the report identifies 29 specific companies that donated over 11 million pounds to the party.
And their return on that 11 million?
While the Conservatives were in power, Those same 29 companies received £2.3 billion in contracts.
Okay. And can we name names? Because the report names names, and I think it helps to make this real to know who we are talking about.
It does. And these are all public records. The report is just connecting the dots. Take Fujitsu Services.
Oh, Fujitsu. We're definitely going to have to talk more about them later, because that is a whole story unto itself.
It absolutely is. But purely on the numbers for now. Fujitsu donated approximately £51,000.
51,000. Okay, a decent chunk of change.
And they received, in that period, about $1.5 billion in contracts.
I'm sorry, say that again?
£51,000 in donations. $1.5 billion in contracts.
That is wow. I mean, that's a leverage ratio that would make a hedge fund manager faint. That is turning a mid-sized sedan into a skyscraper. It's just, I can't even calculate that.
Then you have KPMG, the huge accounting and consulting firm.
Right.
They donated around £170,000. They received $236 million.
Still a fantastic return. And Randix Laboratories.
Randix is another big one, especially from the COVID era. They donated £44,500, and they received $133 million.
So the pattern is very, very clear on the conservative side over that decade.
Yes.
But then we had the election. The government changed. New leadership, new promises. Change was the slogan. Did the Nexus break? Did the machine grind to a halt?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? If this were purely a partisan issue, a Tory sleaze thing, as some might call it,
Yeah.
you'd expect the data to just flatline the moment the moving vans pulled up to Downing Street. You'd expect a pause, a reset, while everyone figured out the new rules of the game.
Did we see a pause?
The data suggests. No, we did not. The machine didn't even stutter.
Real.
Now, we have a much shorter time frame for the labor data, just that 1 year from July 2024 to June 2025. But in that single year, the mechanics look identical.
Okay, give us the numbers.
In that first year, 8 corporations donated over £580,000 to labor.
Okay.
And in that same first year of government, they received just under £138 million in contracts.
So even in year one, the honeymoon period, the money is still flowing in exactly the same pattern.
It is. It's just a different logo on the letterhead. Take PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC.
Another big consultancy.
Exactly. They donated roughly £236,000 to labor. They received $67.5 million in contracts in that first year.
And what about Baringa Partners?
Baringa Partners donated $30,000. They received $35 million. A more than 1,000-to-1 return right out of the gate.
Wow. And Microsoft, the tech giant.
This one is really interesting because of the timing. Microsoft donated £30,000 in April 2024. So just before the election really ramped up, when the polls were looking very clear.
Okay, hedging their bets a little.
You could see it that way. Then, between July 2024 and April 2025, under the new Labor government, they received contracts worth roughly $17.9 million.
So 30 grand in, just under 18 million out. Not bad work if you can get it.
It highlights that this isn't about red team or blue team.
No.
It's about green team. It's about money. The companies are, for the most part, politically agnostic. They view the government not as an ideological body, but as a client with very deep pockets.
And you'd take the client to dinner regardless of who the CEO is that week.
Exactly. You maintain the relationship.
Which brings us perfectly to this concept of the strategic supplier. Because when you look at names like Microsoft, KPMG, PwC, these aren't just random businesses. These are absolute giants.
They are. And the government itself classifies certain companies as strategic suppliers. It's an official designation.
What does that actually mean?
It means these are firms that the government significantly relies on. The usual definition is a company that gets over £100 million a year in revenue, just from government contracts.
So they are, in effect, too big to fail partners of the state.
Or too entrenched to fire. Think about it. The government's core IT infrastructure, or its major accounting systems, or its huge construction projects, are so deeply intertwined with these companies that they can't easily switch to a new provider.
It's vendor lock-in on a national scale.
A massive scale. It's like trying to switch from an iPhone to an Android, but if your iPhone also controlled the nuclear codes and the entire NHS payroll system.
Okay, that's a terrifying analogy.
The switching costs are astronomical. So these companies have immense leverage.
And this is where we see the double dippers, as I call them.
The double dippers. I like that term. It's very accurate.
It's the companies that the report highlights for donating to both major parties.
Yes. The report explicitly names Microsoft and PwC in this category.
And this, to me, is the real smoking gun for the argument that these donations are transactional, not ideological.
It's the cleanest evidence you could ask for, isn't it?
Yeah. If you donate to the conservatives and to labor, you clearly aren't donating because you believe deeply in one specific political philosophy. You aren't a diehard socialist who also happens to love tax cuts for the rich.
No. You're donating because you want to make sure that whoever wins the election, your phone calls still get answered, your emails get a reply, you have a seat at the table.
It's hedging your bets. It's classic risk management.
It is betting on the house. In a casino, the house always wins. In the donor-contractor nexus, if you donate to both sides, you are the house. You cannot lose.
So let's look at where the money is going. What sectors are we talking about here? What are we actually buying with these billions?
The report breaks this down, and the numbers are just, again, on a scale that's hard to comprehend. The biggest slice of the pie.
Let me guess. Construction.
Construction. £845 billion total market value for public contracts.
Concrete and steel, roads, railways, hospitals.
All the big infrastructure, it makes sense. These are massive capital projects with huge budgets and often, let's be honest, fairly opaque pricing structures. It's very difficult for the public to know if a bridge should cost £1 billion.
And what's the second biggest sector?
Business services. $536 billion. This is your consultancy, your IT support, your management outsourcing, your accounting.
Which explains why construction firms and the big four accounting firms are such frequent and prominent donors.
Exactly. They are fishing in the biggest ponds. If you are a major construction firm, government contracts are your lifeblood. You simply cannot afford to be shut out of that market.
So the donation becomes almost an insurance policy, a premium you pay to ensure you're always on the short list for the next big project.
It's the entrance fee to the game.
I want to zoom in on some of the specific case studies now, because strategic suppliers sounds very clean and corporate and professional, but when you look at the actual track records of some of these companies, it gets a little disturbing.
It does. And this is where the whole meritocracy argument for government outsourcing really starts to crumble.
What do you mean?
Well, the argument is always the private sector is more efficient, more competent, it brings innovation.
Yeah.
But the data here shows that the nexus, this relationship, is resilient even to catastrophic failure.
Let's talk about Fujitsu. I think we have to talk about Fujitsu.
You do, Fujitsu Services. Now, anyone in the UK, and probably many listening abroad, knows about the post office scandal.
Oh, yeah.
It is arguably the most widespread miscarriage of justice in British legal history. We're talking about hundreds of innocent sub-postmasters, regular people running their local post office who went to prison, went bankrupt, some even took their own lives.
All because of faulty accounting software.
Faulty software provided by Fujitsu. Software that Fujitsu knew had serious bugs and flaws.
It was a disaster, a national tragedy. Lives were completely ruined based on computer errors.
And yet, look at the data we just discussed. Despite this high-profile scandal, despite the public outrage, despite the ongoing inquiries and the media storm, Fujitsu continued to maintain its close relationships with the party in power.
They kept donating.
And most importantly, they kept winning huge contracts. They received that £1.5 billion from the Conservative government, while this scandal was bubbling up and then exploding into the public consciousness.
How is that possible?
Because the Nexus seems to be immune to bad publicity. In a normal competitive market, if you sell a product that is so faulty it sends hundreds of innocent people to jail, you go out of business.
Your reputation is torched.
Completely. No one buys from you ever again. You are finished.
But in the world of government contracting?
If you are a strategic supplier and a consistent donor, the money just keeps flowing. It suggests that the relationship, the nexus, is more important than actual performance or competence.
It's almost like a form of state capture, isn't it? Where the government becomes so dependent on a supplier that it literally can't punish them for failure.
I think that's a very good way of putting it. It's like they're bulletproof. They're insulated by the very system they have helped to build and fund.
And we saw similar patterns with the COVID-19 pandemic contracts, right?
We did. The report specifically flags companies like Randex Laboratories and Clipper Logistics.
I remember those names.
They were repeatedly flagged in the press and by watchdog groups for controversy regarding how they won contracts during the pandemic.
The so-called VIP lanes.
Exactly. Contracts awarded without a proper competitive tender process, often to companies with connections to ministers or officials.
And yet, here they are. They are on the list. They are in the flow of public money.
They are repeat offenders, as the report calls them. But the system doesn't seem to have a mechanism, or perhaps the political will, to cut them off. The feedback loop of donate, make profit, donate more is just too strong to be broken by a few bad headlines.
The report has these visuals. Obviously, this is audio, so we have to describe them. But they have these timelines for specific companies, which are just incredible.
They're very striking visuals, yes. They make the pattern incredibly clear.
Yeah, take AirUp, the big engineering firm. You see this timeline on the page, and there's this clear, massive spike in donations, just a big vertical bar on the graph. And then immediately following it, a steady, thick, unbroken stream of government contracts.
It looks like a jumpstart. You provide the electrical spark, the donation, and the engine of public money starts running and just keeps on running.
And another one, Senator International. It's so consistent, it looks like a heartbeat on a monitor. Donation contract, donation contract. It's just the regular rhythm of the relationship.
It visualizes that this isn't a one-off event. It's a maintenance schedule. It's like paying your utility bill to keep the lights on and the water running.
No, here is where it gets, well, scary is maybe the wrong word, but it's deeply, deeply frustrating. Because as much data as we have, the 47 million in, the 60 billion out, the experts at Autonomy say we are barely scratching the surface of what's really going on.
This is what they call the dark matter of the data, what we can't see.
The dark matter. I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. We're throwing around this 60 billion pound figure. But there's a footnote in this report that genuinely kept me up last night. It's about the attachments.
The attachments black hole.
Yeah.
Yes. This is one of the most egregious findings in the entire report, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Explain this to me like I'm 5. If I go to the government's Contracts Finder website right now, what do I see?
Okay, so usually for most contracts, there are fields, columns in a spreadsheet that list the supplier name and the award value.
Simple enough.
Computers can read those columns easily. That's how this analysis is done. But for over 588 high-value contract notices, those columns are effectively blank or just contain generic placeholder text.
So where's the information?
To find out who actually got the money, you have to find and click on a file attachment, usually a PDF.
Which sounds annoying, but not necessarily nefarious. Why is that a big deal?
It becomes a very big deal when you look at the scale of it. We aren't talking about a few £1,000s for office supplies being hidden in an attachment. These 588 notices account for a total value of 499 billion pounds.
Wait, hang on. Say that number again.
499 billion pounds. Nearly
£500 billion.
Yes. £500 billion of public contracts where the supplier's name is not in a machine-readable format.
That's not an accounting error. That's a quarter of the UK's entire GDP.
Exactly. And because that vital information is locked away inside PDFs or sometimes scanned images or even corrupted files, it is completely invisible to any kind of large-scale data analysis. Autonomy couldn't scrape it.
So how would you get it?
A human being would have to manually open, read, and transcribe 588 complex legal documents one by one.
That is 18% of the total value of all contracts awarded in the period, just listed as see attached.
Imagine trying to do your household budget. You're looking at your bank statement, you see your mortgage, your car payment, your groceries. It all makes sense. And then 18% of your total spending for the year is just one line item that says stuff, and the details are in a shoebox that you've glued shut.
And you can't open the shoebox without a crowbar and a week of your time.
Precisely. You have no idea if that money went to pay a legitimate bill, or if it went to a scammer in another country, or if you just set fire to it. It's incredible.
So when we say 60 billion pounds in contracts went to donors, that is an absolute minimum.
It is the absolute floor. It is only the data that we could actually see and analyze. The real number could be double that. It could be triple. We simply do not know because the transparency is so fundamentally broken.
It feels intentional, doesn't it? I mean, in the age of AI and big data, surely the government could build a web form that has a mandatory field that says, please enter your company's house ID.
One would think. It's not a difficult technical problem to solve. The fact that it hasn't happened suggests that transparency is not the primary design goal of the procurement system.
Opacity is a feature, not a bug.
I think that's a fair conclusion. If you wanted to hide a massive conflict of interest, you wouldn't shred the document anymore. That's too obvious. You just save it as a non-searchable PDF and put it in a digital pile of 500 other non-searchable PDFs. It effectively removes that £500 billion from any meaningful public scrutiny.
So, to recap, we have a massive problem. A 12,294 to 1 return on investment for political donations.
Yes.
A bipartisan system of pay-to-play that works just as well no matter who's in power. Strategic suppliers who are too big to fail and seem to be immune to scandal or incompetence.
Correct.
And a data black hole hiding £500 billion worth of contracts from public view.
That is the summary of the situation.
Depressing.
It is grim. It's a very grim picture.
But thankfully, autonomy didn't just drop this bomb and walk away. They have recommendations. They have a plan to fix it.
They do. And their recommendations are quite bold. They aren't just, let's have a committee meeting and write a report. They are fundamental structural changes.
Let's go through them. Recommendation number 1, the hard ban.
This is the nuclear option, really.
Yeah.
Public contracts should not be awarded to companies that have made political donations. Period. Full stop.
Simple. You want a government contract, don't donate to a political party. You want to donate to a party, fine. But you can't bid for public contracts. Choose one.
And they propose a cooling off period. A ban on contracts if a donation was made in the previous decade.
10 years. That is a lifetime in politics. That would certainly change behavior.
It is. But let's debate this for a second. Is it practical?
Yeah, I can hear the counter-argument now. If you ban every major construction firm in the country because they all donated 5 years ago, who builds the new hospitals? Who builds the roads?
That's the argument against it, yes. You might shrink the pool of qualified suppliers so much that the government can't actually function or gets poor value for money.
So what's autonomy's answer to that?
They argue that the market would adjust very quickly. If the choice for a CEO is donate $50K for a bit of access or be eligible to bid for a £1 billion high-speed rail contract, the companies will stop donating overnight.
It completely distorts the ROI calculation we talked about.
Exactly. It removes the financial incentive entirely. The market would correct.
But wouldn't companies just find loopholes? Oh, the company didn't donate. The CEO's spouse did from a personal bank account.
And that's where the second recommendation comes in. Director declarations.
How does that work?
It means it's not just about the legal entity, the LTD or PLC. It's about the people who control it. The report recommends that directors and persons with significant control must personally declare that they haven't donated before the company can bid.
So the CEO can't just write a personal check to get around the corporate ban.
Exactly. And to enforce that, they suggest adopting U.S.-style transparency laws.
Now, we usually don't look to the U.S. for campaign finance role models. Their system is a Wild West.
A fair point. But in one specific area, they are ahead of the UK. In the U.S., when an individual makes a significant political donation, they have to disclose their employer and their occupation.
That seems like a complete no-brainer. If I donate a large sum, the public should know who pays my salary.
Right now in the UK, you can donate a huge amount as an individual, and the public record just says, John Smith. But if that John Smith is the owner of a massive construction firm that's bidding for a new highway contract, that context is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
We need to connect the individual donor to their corporate interest.
Okay, what's next? Then there's real-time transparency.
This is another simple tech-based solution. We need to move away from these quarterly lagging reports on donations. In the digital age, why are we waiting 3 months to find out who gave money to a political party?
It should be instant.
Donations over £500 should be logged on a public database in real time. The technology is trivial.
And publish the company numbers.
Yes. For goodness sake, stop the name change confusion. Require the unique company ID on every donation record and every contract award. It's a simple database fix that would revolutionize accountability overnight.
Finally, they have a specific point about defense spending.
This is a specific call-out of the Procurement Act 2023. Apparently, that act actually loosened reporting requirements and transparency rules for defense and national security contracts.
Which seems like the last place on earth you would want less transparency, given the sums of money involved and the national security implications.
Exactly. The report calls for reversing that immediately. We need more eyes on defense spending, not fewer.
So those are the solutions. Ban donations for contractors, link individuals to their companies, use real-time data, and for God's sake, no more hidden attachments.
If those reforms were implemented, they would fundamentally dismantle the Nexus as it currently exists. It wouldn't stop lobbying entirely. People will always find ways to influence, but it would break this direct, high-speed cash for contracts loop that the data shows so clearly.
So let's bring it back to the listener. The so what? Why does this matter to someone just trying to pay their bills? We talk a lot about efficiency in this show. And usually when politicians talk about efficiency, they mean cutting a local library's opening hours or trimming a benefit payment.
The low-hanging fruit of austerity, yes.
Right. But this report suggests the real massive inefficiency isn't at the bottom of the pyramid. It's right at the very top.
That's the key takeaway for me. Let's play it out. If I'm a strategic supplier, say a massive construction firm, and I know deep down that I've got a very good chance of winning a contract because I donated 50 grand and had a quiet word with the right person, do I have any real incentive to be efficient, to offer the best possible price?
Absolutely none. You've already won the game before it started.
You've bypassed the primary mechanism of market efficiency, which is genuine open competition. If the game is pay to play, then your competence matters less than your connections. Your price matters less than your political access.
And who pays for that incompetence? Who pays for the inflated price?
You do. The listener does. We all do. Every time a government IT project goes over budget by 200%, or a new road takes 5 years longer to build than planned, that is the corruption tax. It's the hidden premium we all pay because the contract went to the connected bidder, not necessarily the most competent or efficient one.
It just raises the cost of everything the government does.
It raises the cost, and it potentially lowers the quality of the services we all rely on. It's taxpayer money being used inefficiently on a truly massive scale.
It's funny, we hear all this talk about creating a Department of Government Efficiency in the U.S., Elon Musk's DOGE idea.
Right.
If you really want to save billions, don't look at the Arts Council grant for £5,000. Look at the strategic supplier who donated 50 grand and got a £1 billion contract that then went 50% over budget. That is where the real inefficiency lies.
It's about cleaning the gears of the machine so it actually runs for the benefit of the public, not for the benefit of the donors.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought, something that actually genuinely kept me up last night after I finished reading this report.
Go on.
The report mentions, almost as an aside, that despite all this corporate money we've been talking about, the majority of money flowing into political parties in the UK still comes from individuals.
That is true. Wealthy individuals are still the biggest single slice of the donation pie.
Now, we just spent the best part of an hour talking about how the researchers found £60 billion linked to corporate donors, and that was with messy, incomplete, fuzzy data.
Yes.
If that's what you found just by looking at the corporations, how much public money is unknowingly flowing to the businesses that are owned or controlled by those powerful individual donors who we currently can't track?
That is the billion-dollar question. Or, looking at the numbers we've seen, perhaps it's the trillion-dollar question.
Because right now, if John Smith donates £1 million personally, and then his privately held equity firm wins a massive government outsourcing contract, we might never see that connection in the current data.
We wouldn't. It would be completely invisible. We're looking at a map of the city where half the roads are just not drawn in. We don't know where they lead.
So the final question is, are we looking at the machinery of government, or are we just looking at a marketplace where the entry ticket is a political donation?
I fear, based on the evidence in this report, it is becoming more and more of a marketplace every year.
That's a sobering thought. But hey, that's why we do these deep dives, to try and find the things that are hidden in plain sight.
Indeed. And knowledge is the first step to demanding a fix.
Thank you for unpacking this with me. It was enlightening, if a bit terrifying.
My pleasure. It's always good to follow the money.
And thank you for listening. If you want to check out the full report for yourself, it's called Givers and Takers by the Autonomy Institute. It's well worth a read if you enjoy getting angry at poorly formatted PDFs.
Highly recommended.
Until next time, keep asking questions.
And always check the attachments.
See you on the next deep dive.